Bonjour and welcome into the cave. My guest today is one of 4 sad losers who love trauma dumping but in an alternative way. Their words, not mine. That sounds exactly like my favorite genre. They go through all types of emotions, from frustrations to relief, carried by the voice and words of their vocalist. Sophie Smith of Hamartia is here with me today. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Sure, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. How about you?
I'm very well, thank you. As we talk, it is still 2025. So how has the year been for you?
It's been a very good year. I think we've been really busy and we've got amazing stuff coming out next year, which I'm very excited about. But we've been writing for our debut EP, so it's been very fun, very intense as well. So yeah, it's been it's a whole lot of everything, honestly, like the best, the worst, all of it. I think we've like collectively as a band had quite a lot of grief this year, which has naturally kind of been part of our songwriting process as well. So yeah, it's really weird having like some of the most positive songs we've ever had out in the world, and we're about to just kind of go nuts with the saddest songs next year.
Yeah, it's a balance that we always need to go through, especially in this genre.
Yeah,
It can be very
definitely.
sad, but there's a lot of hope in it.
Exactly.
And you just released a new song, Synthetica.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that one is genuinely like my favorite Hamartia song so far. It's such is kind of amazing relief is out there and also so exciting. Yeah, it was a really fun one to write because it was one of the songs that I guess I've had quite a lot more involvement in the songwriting process. The initial like riff idea and the kind of the start of the song came from me just having a dog walk. So yeah, it's really sick to kind of be a big part of it from the get go. And I'm really, really proud of it. So I'm so happy it's out there.
Yeah, it's a very nice song, and we'll talk about it a bit later. But first, we will start with your song Bloom.
Yes.
So the first line you wanted to talk about is I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding.
Yes.
Can you tell
Yeah.
me why you chose this line?
Yeah. I think like kind of the whole concept of Bloom is about being in a relationship with someone where you're kind of not really, I don't know, bringing out the best in each other. And it's not that the relationship is bad. It's just, I guess, kind of not end game, if you know what I mean. The fact that you're kind of like floating by and you're friends, but it's not like the love of your life. You both want each other to do well, but you're not kind of going beyond your potential, I guess. So the first line is literally like the breakup has just happened and you're just kind of reflecting on what you've just been through, and the whole like I let out a breath that I didn't know I was holding. It feels really powerful to me, kind of just being like you didn't actually realize what you were going through while you're in it, and now it's over. You're like, oh, I can actually breathe again and I can be me, and I'm not putting on this facade of how someone wants me to be or who I should be for someone else. I really love that line, I'm not going to lie.
It's an image that a lot of people can relate to. Actually, when I read the lyrics, I thought it was more about a more toxic relationship, but from what you're saying, it's just that maybe you were not meant for each other and it was just, you were 2 different people.
Yeah, I think it's that thing, like it can be obviously interpreted in like, either way, but I think like from my point of view, it was just reflecting on a breakup and kind of being like looking at who I'd become. And I think a lot of while I was in it, I didn't realize that I was kind of shrinking myself to kind of fit into the mold of what someone wanted, and kind of thinking maybe like you weren't in love with me, but you were in love with the idea of me. So it's kind of not the most toxic relationship ever, but I guess it kind of was in terms of looking back on how I felt like I had to change myself to be loved, really. I'm so obsessed with plants and like gardening imagery, which I feel like you can probably guess from this song. But so yeah, I think I really love kind of the links with nature, and nature for me is very healing. Like after this particular breakup, I was just straight into gardening kind of plant mode of just kind of growing everything. And I think it was like this kind of juxtaposition of feeling so small for so long and then just growing this like 6-foot tall sunflower, and kind of is very freeing. And when I was writing the song, it's really hard to write about a breakup when you don't know if that person's ever going to listen to it. If especially when, like I said, it wasn't this, like, it's not good to shrink yourself to be with someone at all, but I think it could have been a worse relationship. There's a lot of interactions with nature like during that time, and I was kind of like reflecting on how I look after my plants, and I love like the terminology of like being root bound, of kind of being stuck somewhere, not having the space to grow. Just a plant just needs a new pot, and that's kind of what it was for me. Just cut loose of the pot, replant myself, let's go.
So it's also about you taking care of yourself the same way you take care of your plants.
Yeah, basically, like it's so funny. I think as someone that has like definitely struggled with mental health, I think sometimes it can be so much easier to look after something than it is to look after yourself. Like whether that's a pet or a plant, sometimes you don't recognize that you're not looking after yourself until you start caring for something else and being like, oh, I've just watered my plant, maybe I should water myself.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's really it's very therapeutic. And I remember we played it like for one of the first times at a show with someone who was broken up with that day, and I was kind of giving my spiel about the song, just being like, you know, it's kind of about a relationship ending, and you kind of you're not the perfect person for each other, and you both need to grow. And that was really powerful as well, because just seeing someone cry at a song that I'd written, it was very like, yeah, very very emotional for me as well, just seeing that. And they came up to me at the end being like, oh, I was broken up with today and I really needed that, and it was just really beautiful. So I'm forever glad for plants and songwriting, truly.
Yeah, but I think it's very hopeful, because that means that breakups are not necessarily negative. Sometimes you can congratulate someone because they broke up with someone.
Yeah, and that's it. I think, you know, that you always hear about really bad relationships, and I think we've all collectively had at least one really bad relationship and one really bad breakup. But I think it was maybe the most mature breakup I've ever had, of just kind of like lived my life with someone for a few years and just being like, this isn't really what either of us wants, is it? And I think it's also hard probably dating a musician when that's kind of this high that you're always chasing of gigging and writing, and it to not be in the music space, to then date someone going through that, it must be really hard as well. But yeah, I think like it feels like a lot of growth, and it's you know, it's this thing of like, you don't wish this person bad, you just want them to grow and them to be happy, and you want to be happy too. So it's so mature of me, actually.
I think this is even more relatable than a song about a toxic relationship, because what you're describing, I think everyone has been through it at least once, and sometimes there is no specific reason for a breakup, it just needed to happen.
Exactly. And I think it's kind of what happens as you start getting older, isn't it? Where everyone has kind of something that they want for their life, whether that's, you know, marriage or kids, or if people don't want that, or if you want to like live a cozy life, or if you want to have like a manic life, or if you want to be traveling loads. It's really hard, I think, especially dating in your 20s, because you're dating to find love and to find happiness, but you're still finding yourself and you don't know what you want. And I think like the last kind of 10 years of my life, like I'm late 20s now, like getting into my 30s, this is the most I've ever grown and the most secure I feel in myself and who I am and what I want to do. But then to be finding that out about yourself while in a relationship with someone is really intense, But then there's the kind of the joy of having found that and had kind of a relatively safe environment to find that out. It's just a shame that it's not with that person, I suppose. It's nice to not just have a song that's like, I hate you, you were horrible to me, I wish to never see you again. It's like, if I pass across this person, I would say hi and ask them how they are and see what they're up to, and be like, I'd still care, but I just wouldn't want to be there for the long ride.
Also, you were talking about writing a song about not knowing if the person will listen to the song or not. Do you know if they have?
I don't know. I haven't asked. It's funny because I think it's kind of this, everyone always talks about it in relationships with dating a songwriter, but I guess kind of made more public by artists like Taylor Swift, who people are gonna like massively examine her life and who she's been dating, and it's kind of like the small time version of that, where I always wonder if like my exes are just checking out my songs to see if it is about them, but like, that's a niche reference and must be about me. It's kind of like that Spider-Man meme where they're all just like pointing at each other. I just wonder if that's how it's happened. But yeah, I've spoken about it like little bits and bobs, and like I would imagine that they would probably guess it's about them, but I think also the fact it's not just really vengeful, they probably like, could be worse, I had a song written about me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not like you're the love of my life, you're the best, but it's it's nice. Yeah, I think it's also kind of the post-therapy stuff that I always talk about, where maybe like 5 years ago, if I was to write a song about this, maybe it wouldn't have been so nice. I don't know. I think it's kind of like you grow up as a person and very like, I guess, analytical about how I act and how other people act, and I'm always trying to kind of act with kindness. So it's a very fine line of with songwriting of like how much you give away, because you want it to be like ambiguous enough that people can relate to it, that, you know, haven't been through this exact relationship with you, but also like specific enough where you get that release, but then also being mindful that you're writing about someone else that may not want that attention or want to, it's a really, really fine line between it all.
Yeah, because you still want it to be authentic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I said, I kind of leaned into the plants because it was just kind of where my headspace was at the moment. And I think that it's just really therapeutic, I think, to link things to nature. And it's not really something I've kind of experimented before in songwriting, but I feel really proud of it. And then a lot of like our merch that we're doing at the moment is very floral to kind of match like the themes. Like we've got this really cute tote bag with loads of thorns going in and out of the logo and stuff. And it's just, even the music video was just a very, very kind of floral, dead flowers, like dried flowers kind of vibe, which took a lot of time to film and do all of that. It was a long project, but yeah, it's really, really nice. And it was one of the songs that I really loved writing it and I loved performing it, but I was like, oh, this isn't like the hard hitter Hamartia song, but it's actually like, we've had a lot of really positive feedback and people saying it's their favorite Hamartia song, which blows my mind, because I guess because it's so vulnerable and exposing to me, that I was kind of unsure if that would, playing it and performing, I'm like, is this too vulnerable for me? So the fact that people are really loving it is amazing, really.
It looks like it was a very easy decision, like you just knew. But in the end, we know that in practice, this is not that easy to come to that decision. So someone reading this can be like, okay, this was obvious for Sophie. It's not that obvious for me. So without telling you, oh, why did you stay? But I also wanted to ask, what were the reasons that made you stay until you made the decision?
Oh, that's so hard. I feel like there was so many different reasons. It's so easy in a relationship to get like kind of complacent, and if you've been with someone for a while, you kind of think, well, maybe this is what love is, and maybe this is what it's supposed to be. And it was kind of really the first relationship I had that was actually a good one. And I think because of that, you're like, oh wow, someone's treating me nicely and treating me with respect, but then maybe it doesn't feel as like intense as I thought it would. So it's kind of, I guess, the doubt of that and being like, well, this person is nice and we're having a nice time, but I'm not sure this is all I want. But yeah, there's so many like different little kind of variations of it. But I guess, yeah, for me, it was kind of maybe not knowing that there was better and kind of being a bit scared of what's on the other side. And also at the time, it kind of almost felt like selfish to end it, because I'm like, well, this is good. Am I just kind of self-sabotaging and this is me just being scared? And yeah, it was like a lot of conversations, and this sounds really bad and I don't mean it in the way that it's going to come out, but I read something somewhere that was like, women get over the relationship while they're still in it and men take longer. Like, look, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a psychotherapist, I don't know how true that is, but to me it kind of is how it felt. Like my relationship like kind of came to an end during COVID as well, so it was like this kind of world disrupting event, and And it was kind of, for a lot of people, life or death, and your whole life changes overnight. And I think actually that happening made me reflect on myself and who I am. And it was like the first time that this awful stuff was going on in the world and I was stuck at home, and my mental health was getting better because I wasn't having all this pressure from social media and having to, like, the grind culture because everyone couldn't. And this is kind of where it came to gardening, and I was very much on, like, I want to be present, I want to live in the moment, I want to, like, really connect with my feelings. And I really grew as a person in that time. And I think, like I said, it was coming back to that thing of, like, what do I want from my life? Like, who do I want to be? And obviously every relationship ending has its reasons, but the whole time I kept coming back to, like, the fact that I think that I want more, and I also don't want to hold this other person back. And I think, like, ultimately they were supportive as they could be, but I think, not being a musician, they didn't understand the life that I was kind of aiming for, and kind of knowing that they wanted something completely different from their life, and just being like, if I hold on to this, I'm holding this person back from finding their person as well. And kind of being like, yeah, just knowing that we both wanted something, we both deserved better than what we had. So it's a lot, it's a really, like, complicated mixture of emotions with it, really. I'm trying to act more like, okay, like the advice that I'd give to a friend of, like, not settling for less, or if you feel like something's not quite right, is it right? Is it just you that you're, like, freaking out? Is it the fact that it isn't right? And just kind of going on with that. But it was a relatively easy breakup, like, in the sense of, like, I think we both saw it coming, and there was no bitterness there. It was just kind of, this is the end, and we both know we're never going to get back together, but we had shared a nice piece of time together and we learned a lot, but ultimately we don't want to hold each other back, which, yeah, is so mature. It's such an adult breakup. When I see, like, some breakups that my friends have been through and had really, like, awful things happen, I feel really lucky that this was relatively painless. And it was kind of maybe my first moment where I felt like I chose me. Yeah, I chose me and was like, I want to get to know myself better now. Like, I feel like I've grown and I'm still trying to work out what I want, and to be in a relationship trying to work that out isn't fair on me and isn't fair on them. And ultimately I just kind of want to find out who I am. And thankfully I have done that now. So sometimes when you're in a breakup, you're like, this is the worst thing in the world and I don't know if I'm going to ever get over this heartbreak. But it was one of the moments where I kind of tested my own strength. Breakups are sad, but it's like a overall, like, quite a nice kind of a nice story of being, like, choosing yourself and finding yourself and choosing your own happiness. Is a very big move.
I don't think any breakup is easy except if you take any extreme cases, but whether you are broken up with or whether you are breaking up with that person, which I think can be even harder, actually. I don't know about you, but for me, I think that is.
Yeah. It's a lot of guilt there, I think, when you break up with someone, of kind of being responsible for someone else being really upset. It's pretty savage.
Yeah, and you were talking about, you thought that you were being selfish, but it's actually selfish staying with that person.
Yeah. It's hard to rationalize that, and it's hard to, like, I feel like this is me going on a separate tangent, but, like, it's kind of this thing of being in your 20s, right? Like, I mentioned earlier about people, like, wanting to get married or wanting to have kids. We're at that kind of, like, age where there are biological limitations there of, like, what you can have. And I kind of realized I didn't want kids, and I was thinking about, like my life and what I've been quite mentally unwell for quite a lot of my life, where I've really struggled with anxiety and depression, and finding out that I'm neurodivergent kind of, like, made it all make sense. But I think coming to terms with being like, I don't want children, and my partner at the time did, I was like, there is no way that one of us isn't going to have to make a massive compromise. And then I am not going to compromise and have a child, because that is a ginormous compromise. But if someone also really wants a kid and you don't, like, I would never feel comfortable with them making that sacrifice for me.
Mm-hmm.
There is just no compromise on a huge decision like that at all. And I'm seeing it now with a lot of my friends who are going through this of like one partner wants kids and the other doesn't. And you just can't compromise on that at all. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely a huge factor in it as well, I think. But I'm glad that I made the right decision. I feel like I've done so much growing since then, and I'm so much more confident in myself and like what I want, and I find it a lot easier to kind of stick up for myself and ask and be like, yeah, I know that this is what I want for my life, and I'm happy to ask for it, if you know what I mean.
Kids topic is really, I think, one of the hardest in a relationship, because it's really not a difference of personalities or being a match or whatever. It's really two different needs, whether to have it or not. Yeah, because you were talking about it as a compromise, but then you said sacrifice, and it's really a sacrifice.
Yes.
You cannot just have half a kid, or
you can't just have it at weekends. Like
you cannot have a middle of this, and I can imagine how heartbreaking this can be for a lot of couples going through it.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it's like it's also being aware of your own limitations as well. To have a child is such like a huge change, and you're bringing another person into the world, and you know, I think we all have an idea of like how we want to be treated. I just wouldn't want to do anything half-assed or just like in a way that I knew that I couldn't do. So yeah, it's such a weird thing as well, being in your 20s and then talking about like kids and stuff, because I feel like it's a lot more normal for people around me to not have kids now than it probably would have been like 10, 20 years ago. But I still think there is such a stigma still of kind of people expecting it, of you wanting to have them. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, like you said, it's a huge sacrifice, and one that like I hope he has a great and wonderful life, and I hope that he has the family that he wants in the future. It was just never going to be with me.
The reasons why you left are pretty obvious, but is there something that really triggered the moment where you were like, okay, now I'm doing it?
I think I'd been thinking about it for quite a while and being like, we both want really separate things. And I felt like there was this element of maybe he thought that I would change my mind about what I wanted for my life, but I'd never been more sure. I'd just been thinking about it more and more and more. And then it was so weird. It was really like weird, like the day that we broke up, I just kind of woke up and was like, today is the day. I can just feel it. It's going to happen today. It's going to happen. I guess it's that thing of like really thinking about kind of the pros and cons, and all I kept thinking was like, I am holding him back. Like, I am holding him back from his life. He's never going to have the life that he wants with me. And then I just thought like, I don't want to do that to someone else. I don't want someone else to do that to me. It was the kindest thing to do. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing of like, by being together, we're just prolonging the inevitable. So I guess that was kind of it. And it's hard when it's like someone that you care about and you don't want to see them upset. You obviously, like when you're dating people, like get to know their family and all of their friends, and you really care about them as well. I kind of got to the point where I'd like spoken to my friends about it quite a lot, and they were all very much like, you both are very different and you want different things, and that's not going to change. Like, the longer you're together, the harder it's going to be. It's kind of like ripping the band-aid off. It was one of the best relationships I've been in, so it makes it harder. But yeah, I think it was so weird. It was just, I literally just woke up on that day and thought, it's got to be today. I can't explain it, but it's got to be today.
How was after the breakup? Because like this, it looks like it was super easy.
It feels bad to say it was easy, but I think because I'd made up my decision, and I felt like while I was in the relationship, I grieved for the relationship. I was upset on the day, and then I wrote like loads of poems, and this is kind of where Bloom happened, is I kind of processed a lot of it by writing it down, and I just felt like a weight lift, really, because I knew that I'd made the right decision for both of us, and it kind of felt like he would never make that decision. It would always have to be me. It was weird. The weirdest thing, right, after like breaking up with someone is you obviously like send each other photos of like your life and your day, and I was trying to find one of them like months afterwards, and I was scrolling back the conversation and I accidentally liked a different photo, and I was like, oh no, this is awful. And then he messaged me like, hey, are you looking for something? What are you doing? I was like, I'm really sorry. And we had like a brief catch up like a few months afterwards, but I felt really bad. But I think it's just, it is so weird going from like speaking to someone every single day to just never again.
They become from one day to another, almost like from your best
Yeah.
friend and a stranger.
I've been with my current partner for like 4 years, and this is the one that I'm like, oh, this is what I was searching for. Now I think about like if we broke up now and like how I would be, it would be such a different thing, because I would be like not okay. But I think it's just so weird, like sometimes you don't realize until you're with someone different, kind of like the flaws in a relationship as well, and like what you actually want and stuff, and kind of how easy life is. Very interesting to me to see like how I've changed, and like how I want to be loved now, and like I love people back, and like learning about love languages and stuff is really interesting.
What's your love language?
Turns out it's acts of service, which I think is actually quite common with women, because it seems to be like this kind of like, if we're deep diving into like the patriarchy and stuff of like women feeling like they've been cared for, and it's like you're helping out and doing stuff. So I think I'm not like after like massive gestures, but just like, oh, I'm thinking of you, or I've done something thoughtful for you. That's it. It's also very much how my family like act with each other as well. It's very much like we're doing family, like you do something without being asked, and or that's kind of how we. So I guess it's kind of, you kind of almost inherit that love language from your family as well. So yeah, what about you? What's your love language? I'm curious.
I think for me it's quality time.
Nice.
I just really like to have dinner together, even if it's just at home, not doing anything special. But I think it comes from my very first relationship that lasted 6 years, and it started when I was 16, 17.
Wow.
He would spend his whole time playing video games and never wanting to even just go outside for a walk or anything. And so I really craved this quality time. And it's years later, but now I'm with someone, even if he's playing video game, if I tell him, can we go on a walk together? And he's just like, yeah, okay, let's go. And I'm
yeah, it's like what you've always wanted.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's so funny, isn't it? Like the things that you put up with when you're younger, of like different things of like not having your needs recognized and respected, and then to be with someone that would like do anything at the drop of a hat is just kind of is so sick. It's so sick.
Yeah. Definitely. I guess the conclusion that we can have about Bloom is think about yourself and just listen to yourself. Sometimes it's hard, but it's always better on the other side when you know.
Definitely put yourself first.
You were talking about your love language that was act of service, which is pretty much ingrained in patriarchy, which I think it's a good transition to the other line we are going to talk about, which is from your latest song, Synthetica, with the line, tracing footsteps on your tongue, I'm a piece of work as evil as it comes.
Yes. This whole song basically is obviously you have someone in mind when you write anything, but I think it's like about performative feminism. You'll see kind of microaggressions or big aggressions within kind of sexism, and it's really easy to see like who some people are and like how bad they are, and that they really do not like women. But sometimes there is this like issue where there's a lot of microaggressions or people acting in the wrong way. And this is kind of about someone who I've had a lot of bad experiences with, and it's essentially about how they seem on the outside like this advocate for women and safety, but then I know behind closed doors how they treat women and trans people, which literally just like any minority group they treat very badly, but it's with microaggressions all of the time. So it's these things are really hard to just point out and be like, that was bad, because unless you're really looking for it, it's hard to see. But I've noticed that there seems to be this like massive influx of this at the moment, where I think a lot of people feel like they have to say something, but they may not actually believe it, but they want to be seen as like the good guy. And And part of that is kind of like silently taking down the strong voices around them, or like questioning them or putting doubt in their minds. And this is kind of like, I guess, what happened to me really, where I noticed that I constantly was getting targeted by this person, and there would just be little microaggressions all the time of different things that were said and done to kind of make me feel uneasy or make me feel unsafe. And I was just constantly hearing through other people that my name was brought up all the time. This kind of song is kind of a bit of a like, why are you so obsessed with me? And I think that's kind of where the line came out. I was just really fed up, and I was like walking my dog, just going down the road. This lyric of like tracing footsteps, like on your tongue, just kept repeating to me. And I was like, there's something in this, there's something in this. And it's kind of like the idea of you keep talking about me so much. And it's kind of like the tip of your tongue all the time. Like you want to talk about me, like you're obsessed. And then I'm a piece of work was genuinely a direct quote about what they had said to me to another man, calling me a piece of work. And I was like, that is yet again so rooted in kind of like misogyny and sexism of being like, you're an outspoken person, this person's a piece of work.
And because you just asked for whatever any other man would have asked, but from a woman it's...
Yeah, literally that. And I think it's kind of like playing on this thing of like, oh, because I'm asking for it, I'm just so evil. Like I'm as evil as it comes. I'm the worst person ever. There are so many little kind of quotes of like things that have been said and done, and like my observation. Even the line, like there's a fine line between love and hate. Is this thing of like when someone is so obsessed with you in such a hateful way, I'm just like, I'm not sure that I believe that it's hate at this point, because I'm like, if you're this obsessed and like, you know that I know you're no good, is a very weird relationship. But I think that I've seen this happen so many times now with different women, like in the industry or just friends, where there just seems to be like a guy that seems like this really genuine good guy that you can trust, and then it's someone that is just like actually just wants to take you down. They really love like the power of bringing someone down who stands for something. And like I said, it's in these little microaggressions that other women will recognize, but very often other men don't. So it's really hard to kind of explain that to people if they're not there to kind of be like, well, why was that sexist if that's kind of what they said and what they did? It's like, sometimes it isn't in the obviousness of what is being said, but it is in the actions and the body language and the phrasing and how someone's like intention behind what they're doing. And it's so hard to kind of explain, but this is like 1,000% my fight song. Playing this song live is so therapeutic. I feel like I have my like the Paramore All I Wanted moment where everything cuts out and I'm just like, smooth dang. I love this song. It's collectively like a Hamartia favorite for sure. I've always wanted to write like a song about the patriarchy and feminism, but I was like, what new experience do I have to add to this? And there is definitely like strength in kind of community and just repeating what's already been said, but I wanted it to be really authentic to me. And we'd had a go at writing something before. I was saying the right things in it, but it just didn't feel like I had as much of a personal connection to what I was saying. And it wasn't even like I went out of my way to like specifically write this. I think it was just on my mind, and I was like, this feels so right for the moment.
And do you have any example of those mini aggressions? Because maybe you will say something and people will realize, oh, I had this too.
I think it was just, there was always like constantly like undermining me or like putting me down, but like almost passing it off as a joke. I think there was a lot of jealousy there as well about like things that I was doing in my life that this guy obviously wanted to be doing. So it felt like he was just trying to take me down so that he would feel better about himself. And there was obviously like kind of making out that you're good for a girl and all of the generic ones. But I think the danger in a lot of what he was saying and doing was just the fact it was really hard to pinpoint exactly what he was doing, but it was in the vibe and like the general like kind of hatred behind the things that he was saying. Everything he delivered was said with venom. I think the worst part about this whole experience was I know I'm not the first person who's done this to, and I know I'll never be the last. And I think it's this kind of danger, and there's deep-rooted misogyny in who he is and how he treats women, but it's really hard to call out, and it's hard to kind of warn people about because it's such a sensitive subject. It's obviously this massive problem within our culture of misogyny and sexism still exists, but it's maybe not as like point blank as it was before. It's got a new coat. it's got a new skin, is a warning to him, but it's also a warning to other men of being like, you need to call this out, because if you don't, it's going to keep happening, and this is going to be really bad for like people. This shouldn't have to be all the time like a reason of like, this could happen to your wife or your daughter or someone you love. It should just be like, you should not treat other people like this, you need to stop it because of that, and it not be like this personal association with women that you love. It should just be like, this is not okay. And it's also about how we harbor like in music, and especially kind of like the alternative universe of how a lot of these people are people in power and are in big successful bands or big successful people behind the scenes, of like women, the onus can't be on women to call this out, because we're the ones that are suffering, and from this it needs to be people that also have power or also have say, and it's power in numbers. I've seen loads of kind of discourse about this within like lineups of other artists calling out other artists, but like there's so much more to the music industry than like musicians. There needs to be like actual like massive change across the whole industry, like behind the scenes and everything. It shouldn't just be like on other artists who are on lineups to be like, this band are bad. It should be actual change. But this is a systemic issue that is not an overnight change, as it is culture, and we're in dark times at the moment with misogyny and sexism. Like I said, it's got a new coat, so no one's recognizing it in the same way.
Since it's not as obvious, people don't call it out as much. You were saying that sometimes for other men it seems like not a big deal. And this is sad to say, but we need men allies to help us with that, because unfortunately those men listen to other men more than women.
I notice a lot of this sort of thing passed off as a joke, like, I'm only joking. But I don't think that people like see the danger in even joking about it, because it may not be real, but also someone in your group, your circle will hear that and think that it's okay to also make the same things, and also think it's okay to think those. It's really, really dangerous, but it needs to be something that is called out more. Like we're seeing like this massive rise in younger boys and men who are like from an early age kind of like lapping up everything that people like Andrew Tate are saying. So we've already got a huge like problem with violence, like male violence against women and girls, which obviously is then extending to trans people. Like it's everyone in any minority is just getting absolutely targeted, and there needs to be so much change and so much opposition from people who are going to actually be listened to, because it's really, really terrifying. I guess the last kind of 5 to 10 years, I felt like there is change in some degrees, like positive change, but I feel like people aren't scared of saying this out loud anymore. People aren't scared of having these really awful views, and that is nuts, because it's coming out of people that I never even knew had thought this before, because they didn't feel comfortable saying it. We're in this absolute hellscape of the world where there is war, like horrific like opposition, like just really, really scary times to be alive. And I think like it's only going to get worse unless there is a community of people who are going to fight against it. And it's there's always power in community and power in numbers. So I've been very lucky that like in the last few years I've been kind of curating my friends more, if you know what I mean. So I've kind of, I'm not actively like culling people who are saying bad things, because I don't think that actually helps. I think that if people say something and they're not learning that what they're saying is bad and why it's bad, if I just abandon them into the world, they're just going to fall into this kind of right-wing cesspit. But actually it's about education and learning. And kind of calling out things that are said and being like, can you actually not say that? This is why this is really harmful and hurtful. And I've had some really like brutal conversations over the last few years with a lot of men that I know, to kind of say, I know that you're trying to pass this off as a joke, but it's really dangerous, because the wrong person's going to hear this and think that it's okay for them to be doing stuff and saying these things, and maybe even doing far worse. So it's a really weird one, because it's this kind of like cancel culture is this really hot topic, this hot debate, but like cancel culture doesn't actually exist, because people that have allegations against them or are called out, they still have successful careers in whatever they're doing. This fear of being cancelled is absolutely not even real for a lot of people, because they still are thriving. You know, some of these bands that have done horrendous things have still got like millions of streams a month. Like, people are still listening. It's about education, and it's about patience and giving people the benefit of the doubt. And well, not even the benefit of the doubt, it's just about education and being like, this is not okay and this is why, and I'm gonna hold you accountable for your actions and say stuff. And I am in like a friendship group where men call out other men, and that is like, it's the bare minimum, but I'm so happy that it's happening. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's not just on the women to have to call this out. And it's hard enough, like, when you're going through it and being targeted all the time, to then also have to be the advocate to change people's opinions. It is just so tiring.
You are very active in the safety of women in music. Is it actually your job or something like that, if I understood correctly?
It used to be my job.
Yeah.
Now it's just kind of a passion project, really. So I do like a little bit of radio where I'm trying to kind of focus more on kind of women and trans people. But I think it's just, yeah, from my job I learned so much, and it's my lived experience, and I've just seen and heard so much stuff that I just want to be part of, like, a really big change. And yeah, I would love to go back into it, to be honest. It was really tough, but it was really rewarding, like creating and nurturing a space. So I think for me now, I'm kind of all about building that community where people can talk about their experiences and come together, really. Yeah, it's a huge part of, like, not even just a passion for me, but just like ultimately who I am. I'm very much at the moment just kind of working on just looking after my friends and myself and my family, and hopefully I'll be able to do something again with it, because yeah, it's so important, it's so needed.
How do you protect yourself from burning out when, you always have to constantly explain, educate, and still you see what happens when it's something so close to your heart?
I think this is something I'm still trying to navigate, to be quite honest. Like, I am the queen of burnout, and it's not something that I should be proud of. I'm not in any way proud of it, to be honest. The thing that has helped is actually speaking to more men about it. So obviously I speak to women because there's like community and also trans people who are going for it as well. But I think actually kind of talking to men and realizing, like, so they hear firsthand how it's affecting me, and also kind of asking for more help with it, which is really hard. So especially in the band, for example, like, there's always comments. We had a video of us just playing. It wasn't even talking about feminism or anything. And like, one of the first comments on the video was, I bet she's been around that band a few times. And I remember just seeing that and being like, for fuck's sake, not again. I want to think about what I'm going to say to this, because I could, like, straight away be angry, but that's not going to help. And by the time that I'd even thought about replying, other women were commenting, being like, that is disgusting, like, how dare you say that, which was great to see. But also I'm like, where were the men in those comments being like, don't speak to people like that? But I've noticed, like, a lot more of the people in my life have been sticking up for me and other women around them, which is amazing. But yeah, unfortunately I've had my fair share of stuff, and I've had this from, TikTok comments, and I've had this from gig promoters saying absolutely heinous things about me in public spaces on the internet. And thankfully, men came to the rescue with that and commented on those and kind of called him out before I even said anything. But yeah, I think it's really about letting people in a bit, talking about it. But I think actually trying to speak to your male friends and kind of showing that it's an issue, and expecting them to do something about it, and not being just this passing thing of like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's so bad, it's happening to you, but being like, no, you guys need to do better. Like, you need to be protecting me and other women in your lives, whether that is calling that out or, getting behind massive campaigns. It should be all of it, to be honest. Like, I've been much more leaning on, like, male friends, and I've kind of said to the boys as well, like, now within the band, like, I'm not replying to that. I'm just not replying to that. You guys are responsible for how you act, because some days you'll have the headspace to have those conversations or to call it out, but a lot of the time I don't, because this is, my lived experience. Like, I'm fighting 24/7 to with this. I can't also be on, like, TikTok comments and, like, YouTube comments replying to people. I don't know what the solution is on an individual basis, but I do think like talking about it and kind of actually choosing not to engage all the time is really important, because you as one person are not going to change the world. And it's quite a harsh, brutal lesson I've had to learn from being such like a fierce advocate for safety, because I did feel like the burden was on my shoulders to fix it all, and you can't. And also, if you're not looking after yourself, you cannot be an activist. You cannot be shouting loud and creating change if you're ultimately not looking after yourself, because you won't have the energy to do that. So it's been a pretty harsh lesson.
It's also very hard to not take personally any misogynistic attack. It reflects way more on what the attacker than the person who is attacked. But still, it's very hard to not take it personally, to not want to fight for them.
Exactly. It's just as utterly terrifying, to be honest, because you just don't know the extent of what people are saying and how they actually feel. It's in the news all the time that a woman has been attacked, or there's been, like, we're in the era of deep fakes and all of this. It's not ever just a comment. Like, if someone feels brave enough to put that on the internet with their name and like probably their job on it, God knows what's actually happening in real life. People are not scared to say this anymore, which genuinely is like utterly terrifying, because I cannot imagine.
Also, I don't want to make attacks against my own team, but sometimes women also in this, and it feels almost like a betrayal. And you were talking about cancel culture, which, doesn't exist. So to say, I don't know if you heard that in France, but there is a stand-up comedian who is accused of sexual aggression and everything. And he's still doing shows. And at one of his shows, there were some women who called him out. And then there was the wife of the French president who came to see him and who told him, well, if there is any stupid bitch, we will just kick them out, talking about those women. So another woman.
God. It's so hard with this. Like, I find this really interesting, but I think like there's so many ultimate elements of this, which is, I don't know if it comes from this kind of like better the devil, like trying to be friends with them so that you don't get targeted, or if it is just, like, there's some people that obviously just don't think it and don't recognize themselves as part of that group at all. But I find this like rhetoric quite interesting, because there's so much to unpack there of like why someone would say that. And all I can think is like, it feels like trying to save face that you're not the victim next. But also with the media and everything that we consume being so like pro abuse and pro violence and pro everything, because you have everything at your fingertips, I think there is an element of like people being brainwashed from that. I feel really conflicted, like personally, about it, because I feel very angry when I see that happen and see like women taking down other women, but also there's a deep sympathy there, because I'm like, well, what's happened to even make you kind of agree with this or like even entertain it? Is it this fear of being attacked? Is it because you've been brainwashed by things you've seen and by men? Like, what is going on there? It's really, really like such a complicated thing. But then that does happen all the time as well, like where some people you think are a safe person will also want to see you fall as well. And I see it a lot where if there is an outspoken woman, people kind of view them as a problem, view them as like, be a bit scared to get close to them, because the consequences of that is a really interesting one. I really recommend, like, Jamila Jamil talks a lot about this, because she always calls herself like a recovering misogynist, basically. Because she's like, you just read so much, like all of the magazines we read were like so ingrained in patriarchy, like with this woman's put on this many pounds, oh, isn't she looking old, isn't she ugly, all of this stuff that you grow up and that's how you think about other women because of what you're being taught. It's like all of every stream of what we're consuming has some kind of like enrooted misogyny or patriarchal like elements, that it's kind of hard to like fight back and even question those sometimes. So it's weird, but also there is a sense of responsibility with people that have these big platforms to not entertain it, because if you're like, what did you say, it was the French president's wife? That is, what a huge platform to be like against women on and to turn your back on your own. But I guess this comes down to another conversation of privilege, right? Of like,
definitely,
money and privilege. You're not even in the same circles, and part of it, like, it obviously still happens within her circles, but to such a different level of like, if people were to treat her really badly, there would be, you know, articles and news about it, and people probably called out. And though that was another kind of thing of like having everything happen to you aired out in a newspaper, but there is a certain level of protection to some degree.
But at the same time, I love women and social media for that, because there was just a wave of people being outraged by it. And I already see a lot of people getting Salcon, so stupid bitch tattooed, for example, or I would rather be a stupid bitch than whatever. So I love it.
And I hope that, you know, I don't think anyone is above and beyond change. Like, maybe this conversation and the reaction to it will make her think twice about saying and acting in this way. And I do think, like, there isn't like this huge thing with redemption where you're like, oh, you're redeemed from all of the things. But I do think you can learn and change. Like I said, growing up, I would have thought the same things because of stuff that you've seen. But I think it gets to a point where you start questioning it and start to like feel the hurt because it happens to you. And I do think that people can change. There has to be an element of wanting to change as well, which is something else.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the both of us were talking about it, but we were not perfect in the past. But that's also the good thing, knowing that people can change, because if we have changed, anyone can.
Yeah, and maybe that is a blocker with some people, that they feel like they have to double down in these hateful views because they know that they can't take back what they've said, and that maybe there's some fear there. But like, this is part of what I was saying earlier, of it can be so easy to cut friends out or cut people out of your life that are saying really bad stuff. But all I see is just like, if I cut someone out, they're just going to go deeper into those thought patterns. And it's another reason to justify like a hatred of women, is if I cut them out for their actions. And I know that don't get me wrong, I know I'm not responsible for like every man in my life and their actions. And I think anyone that thinks that is dumb, but it's kind of about trying to use a time to educate. And also, if I don't feel like I can, I will speak to like a male friend and be like, I don't feel like I can have this conversation with them about what they said is bad. Maybe you can.
Yeah, just doing your part. As you said, you're not responsible for everyone, but you can just take some of your time to educate, and it can get tiring. And you can think sometimes it's not my job to educate yourself, but sometimes, unfortunately, it is.
Well, that's it. It's kind of weighing up the pros and cons, isn't it? And damn, if only we got paid for it, truly. If I was to give like an actual message to people about this, it would just be like, hold your friends accountable, create safe spaces around you where the women and like non-binary people and any minority for that feel listened to and respected for what they're going through, and try to be better and try to harbour safe communities around you where it's not the person that's going through it that has to call it out.
Well said. Thank you very much, Sophie.
Thank you. I've had the best time.
As people listen to this episode, it's going to be 2026. What is going to happen for Hamartia in this year?
Oh my God, we have like so much unannounced stuff. So I'll basically do a brief little thing, but we're going to be recording. The aim is to have a body of work out, but it could be 2027 if I'm being honest. We are doing our first European date next year, which is really, really exciting. It hasn't been announced yet, and I don't know when it's getting announced, so I can't be specific, but that is what you're getting. I'm absolutely buzzing about that. I'll definitely be having more shows that are on the run, hopefully doing a tour. It may be a very small one, but it'll be something. The 2026 music is going to be really depressing because it's just, we've all collectively been through like so much loss and grief within the last couple of years. It's really heavy, but it's kind of amazing in a really twisted way, at the fact that because we've all gone through grief so individually but also so together, I think it's this combined package of all of our grief in an EP. Basically, we all really resonate with the songs because we've all gone through it together, rather than it just being me being self-indulgent writing about what I'm writing. It's a collective thing. So it's like, yeah, lost a lot of family members, had like kind of people's first like dealings with cancer, which is really awful, kind of loss of self and loss of health. We have like some chronically ill members that we've been, who've suffered like massive changes in their life with health. So it's really different types of loss. We haven't even performed any of the songs live yet, and I think I'm just going to cry the whole time. But yeah, it's obviously, I think everyone can relate to love and everyone can relate to loss. So people are going to love it, but I guess I've let people more in on the songwriting process this time because we've all been collectively writing about our own grief, that I think is going to be really therapeutic for the boys in a very different way that it has been before, because they've been involved in like writing about their experiences. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really nervous. I feel very hopeful for 2026, and we've got our first little acoustic headline in Bristol, which is on the 25th of January, which is going to be really fun. We're playing Noise Fest in Cardiff, a festival, which is our first time playing. So yeah, absolutely buzzing, and I feel really, really excited about the future. I can't wait. I'm just buzzing.
Then I'm very excited about it, and I will be following very closely. Thank you very much, Sophie. I had a great time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing. You're the best. Thank you so much.
So for everyone listening, go listen to Hamartia wherever you listen to your music. Go check their Instagram. Maybe they will play someday near you. Meanwhile, you can follow Into the Cave on Instagram. Follow, subscribe, whatever helps. And I will talk to you again next week with a new guest. And meanwhile, be kind to yourself. Bye.